you, thank you. Grab a seat, grab a seat. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Love you, love you. Thank you, guys. Love you. Well, we're going to get into it, so go grab a seat. Thank you, guys. I never take that for granted. I'm always super thankful and appreciative. You guys make really all the leaders and all the speakers feel so special. And I hope you see yourself on this stage one day. My topic today is high standards versus unrealistic expectations. And my parents' talk is about 10,000 hours. Sorry, but I'm probably going to say some things that they might say in their talk. But both of these talks are intertwined a little bit. And everything that I've ever done in my life, I've absolutely sucked at when I started. And that has become my superpower. My superpower is that I suck at things that I start. See, your kryptonite is many of you are very talented. Many of you can do something and pick something up, and you're pretty good at it pretty quick. So that becomes your kryptonite, because when you get into this business, the 10,000 hour rule applies. You have to go through a series of failures to get to that 10,000 hours. And I'm going to go through a couple stories and what you do in your life, how that will leave ripples through generations to come. I'm going to finish out talking about two individuals that have an incredible story. One, a horrible story of leaving tremendous chaos and turmoil for 5 generations to come. And another one, tremendous success. And the reason why I'm talking about that is you may come from a family where there's been chaos, trauma, issues for 5 generations, 6 generations, maybe even more. But the question is are you going to turn that around? And are the ripples that you start to have happen throughout the next generation, are you going to start to move those ripples into a positive direction? And that's the question. The question is are you going to go through the hard times of learning something new and becoming a professional at it? And that's what I had to do when I started ice hockey. I started a little bit late in comparison to the kids that I was playing with. And I started at 6. And these kids had already been playing for 2-3 years, competitively, travel. And literally at 6 years old, we started traveling to multiple states every weekend. I can't thank my parents enough for waking me up, going to practice, going to different states, renting out hotels, traveling with the team, doing things like that, because that was the first thing that was a foundational point in my life. Because I remember I left tryouts because I played roller hockey and my neighbor played ice hockey. And I said, I want to play ice hockey. And my parents, it wasn't into a rec league. It was right away into a travel team, which I don't even know if they really knew. I don't even know why they picked that. But I was so happy that they put me on the ice with people that were way better than me day one. See, you're going to get into this business, you're in this business, and you're going to get around people that are way farther down the road than you are. So if you start playing the comparison game, I don't know, what's 365 times 22? Somebody do quick math. What is that? All right, come on, on your phone, there's a thing called a calculator. So this is my 8,000th day, my 8,030th day in the business. Stop comparing your first 30 or 60 or 90 or 100 or 200 or 300 or 800 days compared to mine, or compared to Dana and Vinny's, my parents, or compared to Anthony and Callan, or compared to any of the Emeralds or any of the Platinums or any of the leaders back there. When you start doing that, you already put yourself in a losing position. But back to when I went to my first tryout, and the kids were all better than me, and I didn't make the A team. They put me on the B team, because everybody made the B team for the most part. And I wasn't just on the B team, I was on the last line on the B team. And I remember going home, and after, it was like a 2-3 day tryout. I remember going home and being really nervous, really scared, and really kind of frustrated, because I was like, how am I going to compete with these guys? Because the guys on the A team were like next level. Actually, a few of them went into the NHL. One of them was an Islanders. I played with if you're an Islander fan, I played with so many most of my coaches were ex-Islander players. For some of you young people in here, the New York Islanders actually were a good team at one point. Back in the late 70s and early 80s, they won 4 Stanley Cups in a row. I know that was like, decades before you were born. We're not going to talk about how young you are. Anybody who was born in the 2000s, I automatically don't like you. Who was born in the 2000s? Stand up. We absolutely love you and welcome to the team, because many of you just turned of age. Welcome to adulting. But I remember when I came home and I was bummed out, and I didn't know what to do. I was 6. And I remember going, Dad, I'm not good. Feeling sorry for myself. Like all of us have done at one point or another in our lives. I can't do it. I can't make a contact. This person quit. I can't make a sale. Whatever. And he said, stop saying that. He said, we're Pappalardos. We win. And I was like, okay, how? My 6-year-old melancholy brain was like, okay, give me a strategy. I need a plan, Dad. And he had already, I don't know if he had talked to somebody at that point, but he said, we're going to get the right training. And he might have already had talked to somebody at that point, because he knew I was struggling. He knew I was frustrated. It was probably, a couple weeks later. But I started going to this woman who was a power skater. And she did power skating for the Islanders, the Rangers. And then she had a boyfriend who would teach, positioning and puck handling. And so I start going to this woman. Her name was Barbara. She was so strong and so intense and so frightening for a 6-year-old. I learned to skate to just stay away from this person. And I got better. And she would yell at me and scream at me. But it was funny. Even though she was so intense, even though she was frightening and the thing of nightmares, I'd wake up in the middle of the night like, oh gosh, Barbara, oh God, I'm skating, I swear. Don't hit me. But it was weird. She had a softness and a love about her. And here's the thing that I noticed. She was really hard on me, but then she would pause and she'd look me in the eye and she would say that she believes in me and that I could do better. And every time I wanted to quit, she wouldn't let me. I remember one time she told me to stop saying, "You're going to quit." She goes, "If you're going to quit, get off the ice and never come back." She goes, "If you're going to keep saying you can't, you might as well quit now and never look back. Stop saying you can't. Stop saying you're going to quit because you're programming yourself." So I learned this at 6 years old. And I stopped saying that. She goes, "You want to be great?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "What do you want to be?" I said, "I want to make the 18. I want to be one of the best players on Long Island. And I want to do this and I want to do that." She goes, "Okay, I'm going to help you, but you got to work with me and you got to be willing to work hard." Well, that's what your upline says to you. Now, there were a lot of hard days. We used to go 2, sometimes 3 times a week before school. My dad would wake me up at like 3 in the morning. And we would drive to this ice rink and we would skate. I'd have about an hour or so lesson and I'd skate for probably about, I don't know, hour and a half, 2 hours. And now this is outside of my normal practices throughout the week. It's typically 2 practices. And then we had 2 to 3 games on the weekend. So every day was pretty much hockey. And that's what you have to do if you want to become great at something. So I started moving towards that 10,000 hours. And then that next year, I made the 18. And then the next year, it was different select teams. And then it was the next year, we won states. And then the next year, we won states, went to nationals, and I just kept getting better. And I just kept working at it. Now, I wish I knew back then what I know now in terms of success, but I didn't. But some of the greatest life lessons started there. But what I realized is I couldn't have an unrealistic expectation as to where I was going to be. I just focused on my habits. I focused on the work in hockey. I focused on 90-day core runs. I focused on getting to phase C. I focused on, and as I kept focusing on the right habits, I started making progress. Many of you know, I like golf. I have not been playing long. I started playing when I moved to Florida in August, it'll be about 3 years ago. So I basically started 3 years ago. Now, I played a little bit when I was younger. I played on a high school team for like a season, but never had any lessons, and I literally had not picked up a golf club since I was probably about 17, maybe 18. So when I started, it was not starting totally over, but I had to basically start over. And I remember, this is where coaching comes into play. My first 6 months, maybe even a little bit longer, my coach, or the golf pro that was helping me, was a new golf pro. And he was good, but I plateaued very, very quickly. And this guy did not know how to get me to that next level. And I was getting really frustrated. But I had graduated enough to work with somebody better. See, a lot of you are kind of questioning like, well, is my coach good enough and this and that? Well, here's the question. If you're really doing well, the up line is going to come down and work with you if you kind of graduate and move through the steps. Because some people are like, well, I'm not growing because of the lack of coaching. No, you're probably not growing because of the lack of work. And you're overestimating the amount of work that you're doing versus the results that it should be creating. So back to the story, when I started working with this guy, I plateaued very quickly. Then I started Sal. I would always see Sal, and he was always working with the best players. and he had a lot of young juniors, and he was the number one amateur in the United States. He was captain of his college golf team. He went to TCU. He'd done many incredible things, played in US Open. He played in a lot of PGA Tour events, was on a lot of the different mini tours and whatnot. And finally, I just got frustrated. And I said, look, I went over to the head pro and I said, look, I love so-and-so. I love Andrew. He's great, but I'm plateaued. And I'm either going to go to Sal or I'm going to go find somebody else. And he said, no, start working with Sal. He'll help you out. And I remember the first few times I played and Sal saw me. And he said right away, he goes, you got a decent swing, but we have a tremendous amount of work to do with you. Now, nobody likes to hear that. Because I'm going, I want to shoot in the 60s in like a month. Can you do that? That was my mindset. Like, how quickly can you get me below par? And I said to him, he said, well, what are your goals? I said, well, I'd like to be a scratch golfer. I'd like to get to a scratch golfer. It means you have no handicap. Most courses you play, you're going to shoot par, maybe a little above, a little below. He said, okay. He goes, how quickly are you willing to get to 10,000 hours? And I was like, well, I don't know. I have a life. I have kids. I have this. I have that. He goes, it's okay. He goes, but you're going to have to become more effective, more efficient, more dialed in with how you practice, how you play, and he just kept saying that. He goes, because the 10,000 hour rule applies no matter what. He goes, it doesn't matter that you have a job and family and this and that. He's like, and I'm not saying at this stage you're not looking to go pro in golf. He goes, but if you have a goal that is to be here in 12 months, in 18 months, in 24 months, he goes, the work that is going to be required is the work that's required. There's no exception. He goes, one thing about me. He goes, I did everything I could and I didn't make it. He goes, but the one thing that I never questioned is whether or not I did everything I could. He goes, and if you want to get to here by here, you need to commit to this level of work. Now, I'm a recreational golfer. This is not my career. But I loved and I related his attitude. And you saw his attitude as he worked through things. It's the same as it is in the business. It's nothing different. See, success principles are universal. But for some reason, a lot of people get into this business and think that it's not going to apply to them, or they're somehow going to figure out a cheat code to get past it. And I remember saying to him, he goes, how, if from a percentage level, what would you like to get better each month? I said, at least 10%. He goes, really, 10%? He goes, you want to get 10% better every month? And I was like, yeah. He goes, so let's say you're shooting 100. You want to knock off essentially 10 strokes in a month? And I said, well, yeah, it'd be great. He goes, and then when you get to 90, you want to lock 10%, it's another 9 strokes? I was like, yeah. He goes, and then when you get, he goes, are you following what I'm saying? He goes, that's unrealistic. He goes, here's what I want you to do. I want you to focus on your habits, how you practice. He goes, and if you do that, you will get 1% better a month. And if you could get 1% better a month in 24 to 36 months. Now remember, I want to be a scratch golfer in 12 months. He said in 24 to 36 months, I could get you there. I was like, wow, okay. Now, what does this business look like? Well, typically, your first year, you typically aren't really good at the business. You're just figuring this thing out. You may have a little bit of growth in the beginning. You may have a decent circle of friends and sponsor a couple of people, and that's great. But you'll hit a wall. And that's okay. But see, the wall is what I love the most. See, because that's when I see what somebody is made of. When Ryan and Kayla, I've seen that guy, that couple, hit multiple walls. You know what they've never not been? They've never not been excited. They've never not been new. I loved what Callan said about being new and recommitting to the basics. And how if we're telling people to do these things in our group, well, why aren't we doing them? You have to stay new. Because I looked at this business, and this is just me, but I looked at it, this for me was life or death in a sense where this was my financial life or death. I didn't have other options. I wasn't giving myself other options. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm telling you what I did, and it's my story. We have to be so careful of what we tell people because people get the wrong idea or whatever. No, just to be very, very clear, the vast majority of people that get in the business never make it. But that's life. What's the percentage of people that make it to the NHL or on the PGA Tour or into Major League Baseball? We're right across the street from the Orioles Stadium. They've had 3 games in a row, right? I mean, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You see tens of thousands of people going to watch them play. You know what my hockey coaches never did to me? Everybody, when you're little, when you're playing travel hockey, your dream is to get to the NHL. I've never had a coach tell me, well, the odds of you making it into the NHL, little Tony, are 0.00001%. At 6 years old, I knew that. But most people want to be a victim. They misled me. I thought I could make all this money. I thought, they told me. Who? In our organization, we tell you you're going to work your butt off if you want to get to this level. You want to live this type of lifestyle? You want to travel? You want to go on all the different Amway incentive trips? You're going to work your fanny off. Some of you aren't willing to do that, but we don't need all of you to do that. We need a few of you to do that. We only need a few people that have a big, big dream and are willing to go through the process to fill a Coliseum. See, a lot of people look at, I see different people in the audience, whether it's Jordan, Amanda. You see Jordan and Julie. I love Jordan and Julie so much. Why? Because they absolutely sucked at this thing. Oh my gosh, they were so bad at this in the beginning. Now they're a beautiful couple. She's beautiful. He's beautiful. I mean, right? If anybody's going to be able to succeed, it's them. And they were horrible. But here's what they didn't do. They didn't stop. And here's the difference. Some of you have big meetings around the corner from your house. And you're like, I'm feeling a little ill today. I don't think I'm going to make the meeting. Are you kidding me? Are you that soft? But you went to work that day. or you lied and called in sick because you had a tummy ache, your belly hurt, and you need your blankie and a bottle. What are you, 3? It's amazing. Here's the difference. They're in the middle of Arizona. They're so far away from the organization. We know what's great about people that are in the middle of nowhere? If you could build it when literally no upline is there, and you could get a team going, and you could start to build a nucleus, and if you could get it to about platinum, literally the sky's the limit. Because it is significantly harder for you to do that than it is when you plug in with a team. Ryan is the same way. It's Ryan and Kayla now. Ryan lived in Milledgeville. Where in God's name is Milledgeville? But Ryan had a dream, and then Ryan and Kayla. And they were willing to do whatever they had to do. And the legacy that will spin off of that is unbelievable. And I'm going to finish out with this. So, what's the book's name? So there's a book out, and it's about 2 men. And what had happened was there were 42 inmates that all came from a grandfather. And it was several generations from that. But they were all related. Again, many generations apart. So one of the guards did a bunch of research and did a bunch of digging, and how this led back to this gentleman. This gentleman's name was Max Jukes. And he was a womanizer, had 12 kids with multiple women. And I want to show you or talk to you about what he produced because of how he was with his life. From his descendants, 1,200 descendants, 310 were paupers, essentially homeless people. 130 convicted criminals. 50 prostitutes, a horny family. Had to throw that in there. 440 alcoholics. And in basically people that were indulging in other activities, bad activities. Oh, and this is the best one. 7 murderers. It's only 5 generations. Give you an example of somebody that decided to live a life of higher expectations. Better example. Wanted to do the right thing. His name was Jonathan Edwards. He had like around 12 kids as well with one woman. So there's that. But listen to what stemmed off of his descendants. 13 college professors, 13 college presidents, 65 plus authors, over 100 plus physicians, 100 plus lawyers. I don't know if that's a good thing. 30 plus judges, 75 military officers, 80 plus, including 3 U.S. senators, public officials, 3 governors, 1 United States Vice President, Aaron Burr, 100 plus missionaries and pastors, and 60 plus bank presidents. See, the stories, successful families, there's a couple different types of families. There's families, like successful families. You know what they talk about? They talk about ideas. On the kitchen table with myself, my parents, my kids, Dennis and Danielle and their kids, we talk about impact. We talk about ideas. We talk about the people that we're looking to help. We talk about responsibility. We talk about giving back to the community. We talk about, we have a responsibility. We've been given a lot, so we have a lot of responsibility to do the right thing with it. You've been given a gift. I believe that this business is a total gift. This organization and being part of LLC and MMP is a gift. This changed my life. I'm up here, you guys applaud me, but I don't take those applause and go, wow, look at what I did. I go, thank you, God, for putting me in this position to be up on this stage where I've been able to be coached and mentored, where now my family gets to change for generations to come. Average families, you know what they talk about? They just talk about schedules. They're just in a routine. They're just kind of doing their thing with life. And kind of the lowest quality families, you know what they do? They gossip. They're always competing with the neighbors. Who bought this? Who's doing that? Can you believe this person's doing this with their kids? They're not doing this right. They're not doing that right. And they gossip about everything and everybody and everything that's going wrong in other people's lives or whatever. They judge. What kind of family are you going to develop? What kind of life and impact are you going to have? 5 generations from now, are they going to remember you? Are you going to be the Jonathan Edwards? I certainly don't think you're going to be the Mr. Jukes, the Max Jukes. But see, you may not think that your life matters that much, and it absolutely does. It 100% does. So I hope you really take this responsibility with great reverence, and you go out there and you do everything that you could possibly do to fight the battles, slay the dragons, and come out on the other side victorious. We are here to help you every step along the way. We will never quit on you, never quit on yourselves. We love you very much.
For the calendar year 2024, the average income